All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this really special presentation on entrepreneurial finance and QuickBooks Deep Dive. It is really rare that we get access to this level of attention on QuickBooks for free, customized really to the needs of our small businesses. It's easy to find QuickBooks YouTube videos, but often they don't answer the types of questions that we have. And so I would encourage you, as we go through the presentation, please drop questions in the chat, reach out to us afterwards. We are here to help you. So if you didn't catch that first slide, we are Rebound Birmingham. We're a collective of over 14 different nonprofit, for-profit, educational, governmental organizations working to help Birmingham rebound. And so while we've got a 2-hour session today, this is really just the introduction, and it's an introduction of both the topic as well as the partners here today. So on this screen, you can see all of these different centers. Feel free to reach out to any one of them. A fantastic place to start is with Rev Birmingham. I didn't say who I was. I'm Catherine Zobri. I'm with the Alabama Small Business Development Center, and we provide no-cost one-on-one business advising, technical assistance, and training. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone is muted. Feel free to use the chat box for questions. We'll be taking note of those questions throughout, and then we'll be asking Jarlecia, the expert, those questions if we can't answer them in the chat throughout the conversation. The slides and recording will be available afterwards, and we have a lot of fun presentations coming up over the next couple weeks. And so to check out our additional trainings, please visit Rebound eham at .eventbrite.com. And for text updates, please text 267-839-8738. And my last housekeeping note is one of the ways that we are able to provide these services for free, both these kinds of trainings as well as no-cost business advising and assistance, is that we collect attendance. We know how many folks and kind of who's showing up. And so if your name in the participation list is not close to what you signed up as in Eventbrite, please go ahead and rename yourself. And the way you can do that is if you go down, if you scroll to the menu bar in Zoom, you can click on the participants button. You'll see kind of two figures there. And then that'll show you the participant list. When you scroll over your name, you'll see a button for more. You click on more and you can rename yourself. So if your name is not obvious who you are, please go ahead and rename yourself so that we know who is in attendance. My name is Miles. Awesome. Not to point you out, but I really appreciate that. Okay, now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce one of my favorite people in the world, one of the most qualified people you will meet about QuickBooks and just doing business in general, Jarlecia Jones. She is the director of Pathways Women's Business Center in Memphis, Tennessee, and she has a dual bachelor's and master's degree in business administration from Freed-Hardeman University, and credits her alma mater with her passion and heart for service. So if you are not somebody that likes math, if you're not somebody that likes to get into those numbers, I hope that you will take some of Jarlecia's and some of our passion for this subject and take it to heart. Know that if you hate math, it may be because you had a bad math teacher in the past. You are totally capable of doing this, the math that's required, of diving into these numbers, even if you're as dyslexic as I am, which is pretty bad. So Jarlecia, she worked in Nashville at PricewaterhouseCoopers and later worked as a staff accountant with Guy Brown's office products in Franklin, Tennessee. And now she is the Pathway Lending at Pathway Lending as a business advisor, and again with the Women's Business Center. So if that doesn't speak to her overwhelming qualifications, you will certainly be convinced by her presentation today. So with that, I will turn it over to Jarlecia for the bulk of our presentation. Again, thanks for joining us, folks.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for that amazing introduction. You are way too kind, way too nice. Thank you to everyone at Rev Birmingham for allowing Pathway WBC to be included in this wonderful presentation, providing such informative information. At the WBC, we are headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee, but we provide educational services throughout the entire state of Tennessee with educational programs and mentoring. And with everything that's happened with COVID, we're really lucky that we are capable, and I'm sharing the wrong screen, so let me stop my share, but capable of reaching outside of Nashville to share our resources, because they are definitely needed throughout the entire state and for all entrepreneurs. And so with QuickBooks, I absolutely love this course because QuickBooks is an accounting software. And basically the whole overall purpose of QuickBooks is to take your bank statements, take your shoebox of receipts, and put everything in really a nice uniform way so that you can generate financial statements, can easily access the information, read and understanding what's happening with your company. But also if you're looking for lending or investment opportunities, banks and lenders are going to request at least have 2 years worth of financial information, and to make it easier on your tax accountant and not, provide them that shoebox of receipts. If you have financial statements that are accurate, it can ultimately reduce the price of your tax preparation. And so with this course, we're going to really take a deep dive into QuickBooks, all the functionalities of the software, and then we'll talk about some accounting 101, because ultimately what QuickBooks is doing in the background is working really hard to gather information to generate those financial statements. But once you have those financial statements, it's not for you to just leave on the software. It's for you to really be intentional, understand how to read them, and learn how you can make strategic decisions for your business. And so Catherine mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, please feel free to list in the chat function. We have amazing partners here that are capable of answering the questions for you, or if I don't have the answer, we can definitely get you in contact with somebody who can. And so this is a 2-hour course, so don't be too worried. Around 10:45, we'll take a break and then jump right back into it. So if you have a QuickBooks account, I would encourage you to open yours up and go along with me. If you don't, QuickBooks has a sample company link where you can kind of test out the software before you purchase it. And so that's right here with this sample company link, qbo.intuitive.com /re direct /test drive. And so you can go there to follow along as well. And so really the topics we're going to cover is really robust. And so these are everything we're going to cover. How do you create a company? How do you navigate through QuickBooks? How do you manage users? How do you build out your chart of accounts and create invoices and upload your products? There's a customer center there. There's a vendor center, banking, and then a report center. So really QuickBooks is an accounting software that can control your entire accounting team. It can really access your entire accounting team. And with this software, if you are a smaller business, you might be able to manage it yourself. But if you're not, you can purchase this software, hire an accountant, and they can review your information for you. And so with, I think it's so funny, it's QuickBooks Intuit. And to me, QuickBooks is very intuitive. And if there's not information that you can't easily find on the website, they have an entire community where you can go and just search questions or contact someone from their team. And they have been extremely helpful for me the entire time that I've used QuickBooks over the past few years. So let's jump right in. Okay, so with QuickBooks, there are various subscription plans that you can purchase for your company, starting off with something very simple called the Simple Start to even a more robust QuickBooks, which is advanced. And it's truly based on how large your business is or what accounting software needs that you have for your business. So for instance, Simple Start is one of the most basic forms of QuickBooks, and it was created to help support sole proprietors, LLCs, partnerships, and other types of small businesses, because you can configure a chart of accounts, which we'll talk about. Don't get too like, oh, what's the chart of accounts? We'll get there. It helps you manage and track your income and expenses. So as you sell those products, that's your income, that's your revenue, but it also tracks your expenses, anything that you have to spend to run your business. And that's ultimately framing your P&L statement. It captures and organizes receipts. So if you need to generate an invoice, you can do it there with Simple Start. Or if you are collecting payments through the system as well, it helps you maximize your tax deductions. So that's basically saying that it captures all the transactions that flow in and out of your business. So one of the things that are super cool about QuickBooks is that it links directly to your bank account. And so I'll show you later how you connect your QuickBooks account to your bank account, which will allow all those transactions on a daily basis flow into your QuickBooks. And then from there, you have to categorize your transactions. So I would strongly encourage, if you do not have a business account, to get one and to ensure that you keep your business account and your personal account separate. Another great thing about the Simple Start is it tracks mileage. So for anyone that's traveling on the behalf of your company or on the behalf of your business, it tracks that mileage for you. And you can do that through QuickBooks Online, or you can download the software on your phone and track it that way as well. You can run basic reports, so that's looking at your P&L statement, looking at your balance sheet, looking at your cash flow for certain periods of time. QuickBooks has that capability to do that. You can send estimates. So for instance, if you're in the contracting business and you don't want to generate an invoice because that invoice is going to create revenue, you can send an estimate, and you can send that directly out of QuickBooks to your client or your customer. It also tracks sales tax and sales for your business. And then if you have any 1099 contractors, you can also do that in Simple Start. So Simple Start is your most basic form of a subscription. Sorry, you can purchase from QuickBooks, and then from there it gets more robust each time, like there's an additional add-ons. So for instance, Essentials allows you to manage bills, track time, and you can have up to 3 users. And so the purpose of those users, if you have a more robust company and you want to segregate the duties of your accountant, you can have one person that's over accounts receivables and accounts payables. We'll talk about that a little bit more. You can have someone who's specifically for payroll, or you can have someone that's specifically to record those transactions or to reconcile your bank at a certain point throughout the month. And so the purpose of the segregation of duties is to ensure that there is no fraud in your business, especially if you have a larger business, to keep all of those roles separate so that no one can collude and essentially take anything from the business. And then plus, it's everything that Simple Start has, Essentials have, but then instead of 3 users, it allows you to have 5. If you do if you have projects, it allows you to track your project, and then it allows you to track inventory. So if you have inventory on hand, Plus will be more beneficial to you. And then Advanced is the most robust of them all, and that's really for larger organizations because it has so many capabilities that are already built in. For instance, it includes up to 25 users. It allows you to manage and pay bills. It allows accelerated invoicing. It gives your customer users permission, and then you have premium assistance, additional care with the Advanced. And so as you can see, the pricing varies. And so if you have any questions about pricing, you can contact me, or you can contact any of the community partners who can assist you with the pricing. So I would encourage you, if you go to QuickBooks and you're interested in registering and getting an account, not to pay that base price, because there are so many discounts and coupons that are out there and available to you. So please feel free to reach out to any of us. I know we all have special deals in regards to QuickBooks. So let's go back to creating a company or purchasing a QuickBooks. And so like I mentioned before, our contact person, her name is Kenya Nelson. If you're in Nashville or in the Tennessee area, you can contact her and she'll be able to assist you along the way. And the cool thing about QuickBooks is you can start with any of these plans, and as you need additional support or resources, you can upgrade at any time. So don't feel as if you have to be locked into Essentials when you really need Plus, or locked into Essentials if you really just need the Simple Start. So just know that QuickBooks is very flexible. Everything is on the database, so you can connect to QuickBooks regardless of where you are, because it is online. So on your phone or your tablet, on your computer, QuickBooks is there. So guys, when I say we are going through the basics, we're going step by step. So when you log into QuickBooks, this is the initial screen you'll see. You can input your username, your user ID. I generally just use my email address and then your password, and you should be able to access it from there. So when you log into your QuickBooks, the first screen you'll see is your dashboard. Your dashboard gives you a good glimpse into the overall health of your company. And so a phrase I like to use is trash in, trash out. This information is only as good as the information that you input into the system. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's very imperative that you put quality information into your QuickBooks to generate information that's proper. So in this dashboard, the first thing you'll notice on your far right screen is your bank accounts. So I mentioned earlier, with QuickBooks, you can connect your bank account directly into the system, and it'll show you your current balance within QuickBooks. You can also attach any credit card and company credit cards to QuickBooks as well. And so that gives you a screenshot or snapshot there. If you have already generated and have generated financials, so for instance, your profit and loss statement, you can set parameters there. So for instance, here you see last month, but you can do current month, you can do year to date, and it'll show you what your profit and loss is for that particular period. In addition to expenses, just to know how much you're spending on a monthly basis operating your business. And then if you're a company that is accrual basis, so you provide your clients invoices or customers invoices. So for instance, let's say you are an event planner, and to throw or host an event, it costs $5,000, but your client doesn't pay the $5,000 up front. You invoice them for $5,000. It tells you, okay, what you have outstanding, unpaid, is $5,000. And depending on what the due date is or what the time frame that they have to pay that invoice, it'll show not due yet, or it'll show overdue. So for instance, if the client has to pay $5,000 by August 31st, which is next Monday, it'll be over here, not due yet, $5,000. But if the $5,000 was due, let's say August 22nd, it'll show overdue. So that means immediately you need to contact that employee or contact that client, and let them know that, hey, this invoice is due. So it's just really keeping you abreast and up to date with how your company is operating and what you need to do from a financial standpoint. You know, a lot of times business owners are very passionate about their business, which is great, because if you don't love what you do and you do it all day, that's not really good. But another point is, you're in business also to make money, and so passion doesn't pay the bills. And so this allows you to just stay up to date as far as the finances of your business, with just a quick glimpse or snapshot into your business. Without diving deep into the financials, this gives you a really good, just quick look at the health of your overall business. Moving on next. So QuickBooks has various ways you can access information into your system. And so this is just giving you an overall view, and we'll dive deeper. If you see on the left-hand panel, you'll see that Click Create. From there, you can generate and create invoices and access various information from your QuickBooks. But also on this panel, on this navigation bar, you will see there's an overview, a dashboard, which we saw in the previous slide, banking, expense, sales, projects, workers, reports, taxes, mileage, accounting, and my accountant. So all of that information you can also generate with that new button that says Click Create, or you can access that information from the gear icon. So we're going to start off with that sidebar, just looking at it a little bit more in detail. So the first is display the dashboard. That was that quick look we saw with this screen here. That navigation here. Banking, it allows you to access your online banking center. So really on that screen, it shows you every single bank account that you have connected to QuickBooks and every single credit card. And I would strongly encourage that you connect your credit cards as well as your checking account or your saving account, because it just makes it so easy to see all the money that's flowing in and out of your business. Expenses shows what expenses you have in your company. So for instance, let's say you have a, a utilities invoice. And with that invoice, you receive it on October 1st, but it's not due until October 30th. You can input that expense in QuickBooks, and it'll send you a reminder that, hey, this invoice is due. And in QuickBooks, you can also generate or cut checks from there as well. And so you'll set up your vendor. Once that amount is due, you can once that amount is due, you can generate a check out of QuickBooks and send it. And it'll show that, okay, that expense has been paid or that expense is due. With sales, you can create invoices within QuickBooks, and I'll show you how to generate customized invoices and then track your sales log. So for instance, if one of your customers is Sarah and you want to see how many items have Sarah purchased from my company this year, you can go directly to Sarah's name and see her transaction log of her total amount of sales for that year or whatever period you would like. Next, QuickBooks allows you to process payroll, and we'll go there too and dive deeper into that as well. And then QuickBooks allows you to access reports and manage report features. You can generate sales taxes or pay your sales tax from QuickBooks as well. And then it allows you to set up a chart of account, which that is very important. We'll spend a lot of time there. It allows you to do account reconciliations. We'll talk a lot about that as well. And then what's awesome about QuickBooks is that you can invite an accountant outside of your organization or CPAs to look into your QuickBooks. So you don't have to directly give them your username and password. You can invite them and they can have their own username and password to access your QuickBooks. Just ensure that everything has been updated appropriately, that everything has been categorized, and you're generating good quality financial statements. So if we go back, you'll see the first, we looked at that navigation sidebar. Now we're going to take a look at that quick create button. So with the quick create button, it allows you to quickly create items without having to go to that navigation bar and dig in. So for instance, if you wanted to quickly create a new customer in QuickBooks, you could just go to that plus button, create customers, and then it'll have just a standard form for you to fill out. So it'll have the person's first name, the last name, their email address, their home address, and whatever additional information. And then from there, you can generate an invoice if you have the capabilities set up to receive payment through QuickBooks, which is really awesome. So I'll pause here. So in QuickBooks, you can generate an invoice, and we'll talk about this more later. You can generate an invoice, mail it directly or email it directly to your customer, and your customer can pay that invoice from a tab that's in the invoice, and it'll the money directly back to your QuickBooks. I said that in a roundabout way, but we'll revisit it. But really here, it just allows you to quickly create just various things throughout your QuickBooks. So QuickBooks gives you multiple ways that you can access information, the same information, but whatever is more intuitive and easier for you, QuickBooks has it there. So this is what it looks like. If you select that button, it allows you just to see that exact same information that we saw here. It's the exact same information. But it has it listed as customers, vendors, employees, and others. So customers is everything that's sales related. Vendors is everything that's expense related. Employees is everything that's payroll related. And then there's other. And we'll look at all of this in a deeper dive. One moment, please. Okay, so I'm back. What I shared with you guys earlier is that you can manage users and allow various people to have access to your QuickBooks. And as the main user, you, as the business owner, should be the superior user and have access to everything. You can give various controls to employees or accountants throughout the organization. So for instance here, if you log into your QuickBooks and you go to your settings and under manage users, for instance, we have Mason Worthington, who has master admin rights. And so he pretty much has the same ability as you, the business owner, to access anything within QuickBooks. But if you want to give him limited access, you could. And so if he only had access to create invoices or make payments, you could limit his access there. Also, you could give accounting firms the ability to access QuickBooks as well. So the key point here is, as the business owner, you need to have the overall authority to manage your QuickBooks. And then once you add on users, you can give them various rights based on their role in the business. And so if your accountant and your accountant is doing all the functionalities, you can give them the master admin. But if you've hired someone just to generate invoices and pay invoices, you will want to limit their capabilities just to do AR and AP. You would not want to give them the rights to transfer money within your QuickBooks. You will not want to give them the rights to generate a sales invoice in your QuickBooks as well. So that's just a good tip there.
We had a quick question, Jarlecia. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to make sure that we're helping people along the way who might be in their QuickBooks at the same time as you. It was a question from Sarah asking, she's saying that my Quick Create screen doesn't match yours. Is that a software update or?
There could have been a software update. QuickBooks have gone through several updates, and this slide was last updated in July. So that could be the case.
Okay, perfect. And then there was just a quick question about the capability to accept payments via the simple version.
You cannot. Yeah, you cannot accept payments through the simple version. It would be either Essentials or Plus. I can't remember right now, but we can definitely get back to you on that one. I can get that answer very.
It sounds like Beehive has the simple version, and they're using it to create and accept payments. But I think if you could clarify that, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Able to create invoices and accept payments. Okay. Well, thank you, Beehive, for sharing that. And you can also, with QuickBooks, you can also purchase various apps to add on as well. So we can keep that in mind.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to go ahead and answer some questions.
No, that's great. That was a great pause. Okay, so this is supposed to be a funny joke. Accounting, I thought you meant you were an accountant and they're counting beans. You know, back in the day, accountants were referred to as bean counters. But now we have such sophisticated software that there's no need to count beans. So this is our Accounting 101 just refresher, because ultimately what QuickBooks is doing is generating these financial statements for business owners to review. And so part of that is building out of your chart of accounts. And so your chart of accounts consists of all of your transactions. So we're going to start with the balance sheet. Okay, the balance sheet consists of assets and liabilities, and then stockholders' equity. Assets are essentially what you own as a business owner. Liabilities are who you owe. So we'll just keep it right there. Assets are what you own. They add value. They're positives. And liabilities, we'll say, are credits. It's who you owe. And with the balance sheet, it gives you a quick snapshot of your financial health of your business. And so your bank and cash, that's the most liquid form of currency or asset you have. There's nothing you have to do to generate cash. It's just there in the bank. Okay? And so with cash, that's checking, savings, money market, petty cash account, anything that you have. Accounts receivable is the money that your customers owe you. Any outstanding invoices or goods that are purchased on credit. Prepaid assets, so for instance, the easiest one I could say is pest control. So for instance, you pay $300 for pest control to come out and spray your business throughout the entire year. Well, you pay for that in advance of receiving that service. So it's a prepaid asset. Any inventory you have on hand, that has to be sold in the normal course of business. There's a little work you have to do there, but inventory will eventually sell, and that'll be cash in the bank. Any other current assets, so any machinery or equipment, any fixed assets, all of those add value to your company. That's what you own. Liabilities are who you pay. So for instance, any credit cards, if you have any loan payments that are short-term or long-term. Last is equity, and equity can be broken down into 4 sections. Any capital that's been invested in your company, any additional capital that's paid into your company either by yourself or any investors, any money withdrawn out if you're doing owner's distribution, and then accumulated earnings. So your net income, we're not going to get too technical, your net income off of your P&L statements rolls over into your equity. So when you build out your chart of accounts, it's going to fall into these categories. It'll be cash, it'll be accounts receivable, inventory, it'll be accounts payable, credit card, or stockholders' equity. And so if you're in your chart of accounts, you'll be able to see that you can create your COA, your chart of accounts, out of these categories for your balance sheet. So next we have your profit and loss statement. It shows how your company is operating as far as income. And that's basically your income is anything that you have sold in your business, that product or that service you sold to generate revenue. Your cost of goods sold is, for instance, if we have a cake shop or a bakery and you have, and you're selling cupcakes. We do have a bakery on the line. All right, so you sell 1 cupcake, but everything that you put in that cupcake goes in cost of goods sold. So that flour, that butter, that milk, that sugar, that's the cost to create that cupcake. And so you'll have cost of goods sold, and the difference there is gross margin. Next, you have that operating expense, and that's anything that's related to running or selling your business. And so that's your utilities, that's your rent, that's your insurance, things of that sort. That's your internet bill, your telephone, your marketing, paying your employees. That will fall under operating expenses. And then other income or expenses. Other income, for instance, if you sold an asset of your business. So for instance, you sold one of your ovens. Well, your day-to-day business is not to sell ovens, it's to sell cupcakes. But you still have to generate, or you still have to show that income on your P&L statement. So it will go under other income and expenses. And the same for expenses. And so one is if you happen to be in a lawsuit and you had a settlement, well, that's not part of you operating your business on a day-to-day basis. So it'll go under other expenses. And whatever's left in your business, you'll have either a net income or a loss. And hopefully, if you're attending all these classes with Rev Birmingham and applying just the information we've given you, hopefully you'll be in a net income space and not a loss. And if you are at a loss, please feel free to reach out to any of your ecosystem partners, because we're here to assist you and help you find opportunities for your business going forward. So in traditional accounting, I don't foresee anyone on this call needing it, but there is a number guide that is universal amongst accountants. So for instance, assets are always listed as 1,000. And if you have an accountant, they'll know that, but I don't think it's necessary for anyone here. But this is just additional information for you. Liabilities are always in that 2,000 category. Equity is always in that 3,000 category. Revenue is 4,000. Cost of goods sold is 5,000. And then any selling, general, and administrative, so those are your expenses, are between 6,000 and 9,000. You can build out this number system into QuickBooks, but I don't think it's necessary. Or you can just easily identify, I have, a bank account, I have accounts receivable, I have inventory, and it'll work the same. So in QuickBooks, if you notice, if you have an account set up in QuickBooks, it'll ask you, how are you categorized? Like, how did you form your business? And within QuickBooks, it's so intuitive, it's so smart. If you selected that you have a Schedule C, so you are a sole proprietor, QuickBooks will automatically generate a couple of chart of accounts for you. And so it'll know, okay, well, she'll have gross receipts, she should have some cost of goods sold, she probably have advertising. And so you guys can follow me. I'm under Part 2 expenses. She'll probably have some car and truck expenses. There might be some contract labor. So QuickBooks will go ahead and set up basic chart of accounts for you, but based on your business, it can be customized. So you can build out your chart of accounts, as many accounts as you need, because truly those accounts are what's creating your financial statements. And if that doesn't make sense, we'll have some examples later on, and all of those connections will connect. And so the same for a 1065, if you did an LLC or have multiple partners, you can do that. You know, if you're a Schedule C corporation, QuickBooks have all of these various forms in there to build out your chart of accounts. So let's look and see what a chart of accounts look like. So if you go under your company, if you click the gear icon, select your company, you can get your chart of accounts. There's another way you can get there as well. If I can remember off the top of my head, if you go to accounting, you should be able to select the chart of accounts from there as well. So there, like I said earlier, there's multiple ways for you to locate information into your QuickBooks. So this is one way. If you select that gear icon under your company, select chart of accounts, it'll bring up your chart of accounts. So this is what a sample chart of accounts look like. So with this company, they have a checking account and a savings account. They have accounts receivable, inventory asset, prepaid expenses, uncategorized expenses, and undeposited funds. And so if you are new to QuickBooks, QuickBooks will create a default chart of accounts for you, but you can go in and customize it as needed. So let's look at one in a little bit more of a detail. So for instance, I'm going to skip this slide. I'll come right back to it. Let's see. Let's start here. So if you open up your chart of accounts and you would like to generate a new one, this is the screen it'll give you. And so it'll ask what type of category you'll like to create. And so for instance, let's say accounts receivable. Oh, I have a question. Let's play a game. You guys can answer in the chat function. Would accounts receivable, would you see that under your profit and loss statement or your balance sheet? Can anyone answer that question in the chat? Accounts receivable, P&L or balance sheet? Okay, Kevin, we got Kevin say balance sheet. Anybody else? Come on, one more person. All right, Kevin has it for the entire group.
Come on, Sarah. I know you're on here, girl. Where is it?
And you might be a cash company, and you don't know what accounts receivables are. But for instance, our bakery, let's say you have a huge order, you have a wedding cake, for instance, and this cake won't be made until November of 2020. And so you've drawn up this invoice and you said, hey, this cake is $1,000. Well, they owe you $1,000. You have an account that you need to receive on. You are still owed $1,000. So that'll show up on your balance sheet under the asset section as accounts receivable, because you've yet to receive that cash in hand, but you know it's due to you. And so if you look at your balance sheet and you say, I have accounts receivable of $1,000, who owe me money? Like somebody owes me some money. And so it's just a really good reminder. So with QuickBooks, part of your chart of accounts, they have this drop-down menu under category type, because QuickBooks knows, accounting doesn't vary that much. You're going to have cash, you're going to have accounts receivable, you'll have, more and more and more. So for instance, accounts receivable, you'll select that. And QuickBooks allows you to be as detailed as you like. So under this name, you can leave it at accounts receivable, or you can add, if you want to specifically have a very detailed balance sheet, you can update this name and say Jarlecia accounts receivable. If I go to your bakery and you invoice me all the time, you can put my name in there, or you can put any other client's or customer's name in there. If you want additional information, you can add a description, Jarlecia's wedding cake, and it'll have a reminder on your balance sheet that, okay, this accounts receivable is Jarlecia's. What is it for? She owes you a wedding cake. You could do that, or you don't have to if you don't want to, but it allows you to be as detailed as you would like to be. And if you're ever unsure about building out your chart of accounts, you'll see right here that QuickBooks has a description for you. So here it says accounts receivable, debtors or traders and any other receivables tracks money that customers owe you for products or services and payments customers make. It says most businesses only need only one. So QuickBooks give you these tips throughout the entire process. If you have any questions. All right, let's move on. So for instance, we have another one. Let's say you need to add a new chart of accounts, that you looked at your chart of accounts and you don't have one of the descriptions you need. You should be able to see a green button that says new. You'll select that new button and it'll give you a template that looks like this. So for instance, let's look at this one. With this account, it's income. So my question is income on the balance sheet or the P&L statement? Anybody? Income, balance sheet, or balance sheet? Income is on the balance sheet or the P&L statement? Kevin's doing a great job.
P&L.
All right, thank you. Okay, so this is on the P&L statement, it's income. And so allow detail type, so it's the sale of a product. And so it gives you an example. This can include all kinds of products like crops and livestock, rental fees, performance, and food served. And then you can give even more detail. So they are selling garden supplies. So it could be a company that have multiple lines of revenue. And so they specifically want to show this income as garden supplies. And they even associated a number there with it. You do not have to put a number, but they did. All right, let's move on to the next one. Thank you guys for engaging. And so I do want to pause here because we have talked about a lot. And so I know I said we were going to stop at 10:45 and it's 10:45. How about we come back? Let's see, Taylor, when do you want to come back?
Do we want to do a 10-minute break? Is that sufficient? Give people time to check their email, return their text messages, and do what they got to do and come back. So we'll do 10:55, guys.
All right, that's perfect. Thank you, Taylor.
Absolutely.
We'll come back then.
See you soon.
Catherine, I'm ready if everyone else is.
Great. Now I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's get back to this presentation. Let's see, I need to find it. There we go. All right, so do we have any business owners that keep inventory or have inventory on stock? Okay, if so, QuickBooks allows you to, we have, and this is, okay, thank you, Melissa. This is supposed to be super interactive, so thank you so much for responding. And so QuickBooks have an area where you can input your inventory, so you know how much you have on hand in case for shipping or production purposes. And what's really awesome about QuickBooks is it allows you to include parameters. So for instance, if you have 5,000 widgets, at any point below 25,000, you want QuickBooks to notify you that you have low stock, you can input that information into QuickBooks to notify, okay, at 25,000, please send me a warning so I can go and reorder that product. Or it allows you to easily see if you're out of stock for any of your products. And so in QuickBooks, what you'll notice that's recurring, there is a green button that says new. And so for instance, if you want to create a new product, you can select that drop down and then add that new product into QuickBooks. Notify if it's a service type product or if it's for one of your tangible products, how much that sales price costs, if there's any tax associated, how much quantity you have on hand, and at what point do you want to reorder that product. So let's look at that in a little bit more detail. So for instance, you have inventory, that's a tangible product. Non-inventory, that's for instance your raw material that you'll have to convert into that actual product. If there's any service-based or any type of bundle. So for instance, if you do wholesaling, or if you have any products that are bundled, for instance, you order a water bottle, but you also get a teacup, just using the equipment that I have on hand and that's around me. But QuickBooks allows you to identify what kind of product you have for your business. So inventories are items that are finished goods. They've been purchased or manufactured. They're ready to go. There's no additional work that you need to do. Non-inventory are parts or items used for production. And then service items are used if you do not sell a physical product in your business, but you do need that, material to complete that service. Oh.
Jarlecia, would the service be appropriate for, let's say, like an auto body shop who,
exactly,
or a contractor who sells both parts? Like if you have an HVAC company, you sell parts as well as labor?
Yes, that's perfect. So for instance, with an auto body shop, you have, let's say, for instance, you have nuts and bolts to go on the material. To go on that vehicle to provide that service. You don't directly sell just the nuts and bolts on day-to-day operations. You could, but you also need that to fix one of the vehicles, or for instance, the paint that you have on hand. All of that goes into the service you provide. So that's a great question. And so a lot of businesses also offer inventory and services as well. And so if you do so, this is a great area within your business to track the inventory or to track the products that you need to complete that service.
Sounds like that would be really useful for artists as well, who do both, prints to sell as well as commissioned pieces. Awesome. That's exciting. I didn't know about that feature.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Catherine, and adding that input. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, for some reason, let's see if I can get to the next slide. Okay, so when you select either any of those options, inventory, non-inventory, service, or bundle, it takes you to the using list, product, and service. So this is what the screen looks like. And so you can input, if I move this up, you can put the name of that product. If there's a SKU number associated with it, you can select a category. You can put how many quantities you have on hand. So for instance, if you have 50 t-shirts, you'll put 50 t-shirts as of 8/27. And then what's your reorder point? So if it gets down to 20 t-shirts, I want to know it's time for that to reorder. And once you input this information, you'll see at this bottom screen that it has inventory asset account. So what it's doing there, remember QuickBooks is a software system, it's recording that inventory on your balance sheet. It's showing that you have 50 t-shirts available and ready to sell. Okay, so this is where we're about to get into the accounting and see how QuickBooks works in the back, so you don't have to do as much work in the forefront. So on your balance sheet, you have 50 t-shirts sitting there ready to be sold. At the point where it's ready to sell, so for instance, your t-shirt costs $25, you can input it right here. So under sales information, you can put orange turtleneck, I have that on, $25 is the sale of a product, and it's taxable, so QuickBooks will calculate the tax for you. So what QuickBooks will do in the back, if you generate an invoice and you sell one of those t-shirts, what QuickBooks is going to do is to reduce your inventory because that's no longer an inventory. It's going to record that sales on your P&L statement. It's going to record that cost of goods sold, how much it costs for you to sell that product. And then it's going to record that cash. So everything that's happening in the back is what QuickBooks is doing if you set up the account appropriately. I know that was a lot, but we're just here to show you what the functionalities and capabilities you can do throughout QuickBooks. Let's see, do we have a question there?
So the question is, I seal coat asphalt and our equipment requires a lot of fuel to operate. How do I classify that fuel? Fantastic question.
So that fuel would be a cost of goods sold. Let me think about that. And let me read the question. I seal coat asphalt and our equipment requires a lot of fuel to operate. How do I classify the fuel? So question, at what point do you purchase the fuel? Do you have just the fuel on hand, or do you only purchase the fuel if you have like a job? Okay, so I would, because you only do it when you have a job, you can just automatically list that as a cost of goods sold because you couldn't do your job without having that fuel. So to me, it's no point or it's not necessary for that to sit on the balance sheet because it'll be moved over to cost of goods sold within the same transaction. And so it's just thinking through how your business is operated. But if you had that fuel just sitting there, it would be listed as your inventory. But because you only purchase it at the point of your job, I would just, I would automatically categorize it as cost of goods sold. All right, good question. Thank you for allowing me to think through that. Okay, so that was that overall functionality of QuickBooks is very cool, especially if you have a lot of inventory on hand. And if you set it up correctly, QuickBooks will go and do all those journal entries on the back end for you. Hopefully that's the most complex thing we have to do. So next, we talked a lot about how QuickBooks allows you to create invoices. And so now I want to walk you through that process. And so generating invoices is part of the sales function. So if you see on that dashboard side, we have sales circled, and then it shows you all sales, invoices, customers, products, and services. Well, just logically thinking, you cannot have a sale unless you have a customer. And so, especially if you want to generate an invoice in QuickBooks, it's imperative that you create a customer. And once you create that customer, you don't have to create a customer again. QuickBooks remembers, or QuickBooks just have the information stored. And if you need to go in and update, their contact information and things of that sort, you can. And so, like we said earlier, QuickBooks, very intuitive. It has a green button that says new customer. And if you select that button there, it'll allow you to generate a new customer. So let's see what that sheet looks like. So, very simple, just inputting that customer's name, the company's name, what you would like to see the name as, the billing address, email, because you can send invoices directly through QuickBooks, their phone number, contact information, and things of that sort. And you'll see here we have this text bubble for subcontractor if you are tracking a profitability based on a job. So that's definitely useful for contractors and people in similar industries. And so very easy to build out that customer information there. And then from there, you can create your customer center. And with the customer center, it just shows you all of your customers that are within your QuickBooks, and just easily being able to access their contact information. And so you can just download that as a CSV file or an Excel file. And there's multiple reasons why you need customer information: to collect demographics, to see, who your target audience is, who your target customer is, who has supported you throughout your business. If you want to do a giveaway or just things of that sort, it's very important for you to keep up with your customer information.
Jarlecia, can you make your slides full screen? It's hard to see the file.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh,
and while you're doing that, is it a manual process to input inventory and customers? Do you have to go one by one, or can you upload that from a spreadsheet or some other way?
That is a great question. You can upload it through a spreadsheet, a CSV file. QuickBooks has various templates that you can download, and it'll show you exactly what type of information you need to input and to upload into QuickBooks.
Perfect. And
good question.
Just for clarification, this presentation is slightly different than what you might see if you have the simple or self-employed version. The sidebar is slightly different, and it does have different features. It's not terribly expensive to upgrade, but just know that different packages in QuickBooks do have different features, and that's part of QuickBooks upselling to different packages. You find the right one that works for you. It is a trade-off between your dollars and what you're getting in return for those services. Sometimes you can find alternative or plug-in services to meet those needs, so do shop around. Tanisha asked, does QuickBooks operate somewhat as a CRM in respect to customers?
No, QuickBooks is truly an accounting software. There are some functionalities in QuickBooks for you to do minimum CRM. For instance, you'll see under invoices, you can type notes and things of that sort, but definitely accounting software. I wouldn't say a CRM. There could be what Catherine was mentioning, add-ons or additional apps that you can connect to QuickBooks, but QuickBooks alone is definitely just accounting software.
So the benefit of that, of having that customer data, is to understand who your best customers are in terms of the dollar amount, how frequently they purchase from you. So if you are, for example, a service provider, let's say a lawn care business, and you are overstretched, maybe some of your folks are out sick with COVID, or, just, the summer malaise, and you are deciding which jobs you're not going to do that week, or which customers you're going to push off to the next week. Well, you don't want to punish your best customers. And so you might look back at their history of purchasing through your QuickBooks to see who is purchasing consistently high levels, and then you would give them, you might give them the priority. Stephanie asks, what would be the best app we could integrate for CRM? Stephanie, let me look into that and get back to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Catherine. We'll definitely have to get back with you on that one. Okay, that was all great information. Thank you. So going back into after building out or updating your customer, you can create an invoice. And so we all know what invoices are, what you're billing your customer for that product or that service. And so if you select the new invoice tab, this is what an invoice looks like. And so really, there's drop down menus and options. You can choose that customer name, their email address, verifying that that billing address is right. If you are doing an invoice that has terms that's not due immediately, putting that term date in, allowing them to know, okay, when is the due date, putting in the product offerings here. So for instance, this is a lawn care service. And so they have a design, but they also do garden rocks as well. And if you've already input your inventory into your system, it'll just have a drop-down menu. You can select what type of product you're providing. You can do the quantity, the rate, and then it'll calculate the amount for you. It's really cool. QuickBooks also kind of functions as a calculator. So you can do like, instead of putting the quantity, you do 75 times 2, and it'll do that 150 for you. If you have any discounts, you can input that discount into that invoice as well. And based off your jurisdiction and your industry, QuickBooks will calculate that sales tax for you, which is very important, and making sure that you pay your sales tax. So just remember with this invoice that $14.57 is not income you get to keep. That's what you have to remit back to the government for operating your business. And so this invoice is pretty plain, but QuickBooks do allow you to customize your form and make it as custom to your business as you would like. So for instance, if you go under your company, select custom form style, select new style, QuickBooks has various templates that you can, add your unique logo, change the color, add a special message at the bottom. For instance, this one has, "Thank you for your business and have a great day." You can also see it has an option for you to accept payments as well. And so once that invoice is submitted to your customer, they'll have an option here that says, oh wait, let me make sure I didn't skip anything. Okay, so it doesn't show it here, but you can, there is an option for you to allow your customers to make a payment through QuickBooks. And so once you receive that payment, and that could be either via check, a cash deposit, or someone paying directly to QuickBooks, within that invoice, it'll allow you to select if you receive that payment or not. So that invoice isn't sitting there outstanding showing that it's due, because once you create that invoice and it has a net term stay, what QuickBooks is going to do on the back end is show that you have accounts receivable that is waiting on your balance sheet. So it's showing, hey, you provided this service to Amy, but she owes you $425. So what QuickBooks is going to do is it records the revenue for you, but then it's going to record an accounts receivable. And at the moment that you actually receive that payment and you notify QuickBooks that the payment is received, what QuickBooks is going to do in the back, Amy no longer owes you, so it's going to revert that $425 and then apply as cash. Any questions here? All right, let's keep going. And so QuickBooks has this option called undeposited funds. And so that's really for clients who receive checks and not directly direct deposits into the bank. So for instance, you have $239 outstanding, but you have the check actually sitting on your desk. Well, those funds are not deposited. Those are undeposited funds. At the point that you deposit those funds into the account, it turns into deposited funds. So essentially, this is just reminders for you throughout your accounting system that, okay, you've actually received this check. It's just undeposited. At the point that you deposit those funds into your account, it's deposited. For all of our clients that are cash-based individuals, this won't be a concern for you because as you provide your products, you receive the funds. So it's the interchange is immediate, but this is for more so individuals that are that have accounts receivable or accounts payables or that are doing accrual accounting. Okay, so at the point, just talking more about this.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Yes.
So say you have a like net 30 or net 60 payment term with, say your customer is Alabama Power and their payment term is net 30. So you've invoiced them and they're gonna pay you in 30 days. Would that show up here as undeposited funds or would it be in the accounts receivable?
It will be in the accounts receivable. So this is really just for clients who receive, I would say, checks or cashier checks, and they have received the funds, but they haven't deposited into their account.
Got it. Okay. So, and that would also be like if you have a Venmo for business and it takes 1 to 3 days to transfer into your business checking account, that would show up in the received payment area.
Yes. And so at any point, like for instance with Venmo, and we'll get there, those funds should eventually appear in your bank account and your bank statement, which that is connected to QuickBooks. And what QuickBooks will allow you to do is to match that Venmo, I guess, receivable to that invoice, and it'll clear that receivable. It'll match that payment to that receivable, if that makes sense. It matches the payment.
Beautiful.
So it'll show, huh?
I said beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. QuickBooks is really great. I like it. Okay, so at the point that you receive that check and you go make a deposit, you should reflect that into your QuickBooks account. Okay, so let's show you that here. So for instance, with this account, they have, let's see, this Cool Cars has an amount outstanding of $1,675.52. And then Freeman Sporting Goods owe them $387. So what you would do under this section, you would select Cool Cars and Freeman because you have those checks and you deposit into your account. And so once you select it and select Save, it's going to show that those are no longer outstanding payments and that those are due. Those are no longer outstanding and they have been paid. Okay, so that was, I would imagine a lot of people on this call would not use undeposited or deposited funds. From my experience being at the WBC, I've only had one client to do so. They were a large manufacturing company that's grossing like $3 million a year. And so for larger, and I would say manufacturing people in similar industries, that's more useful to them. But for cash-based businesses, you want to use that. Or if you have like net 30, net 60 term days, using your AR will probably be more beneficial in looking at that balance sheet. So I wouldn't worry too much about deposit or deposited funds. because you may not ever have to use it. But if you do, now you know that that is available throughout QuickBooks. Next is your expenses, which appears on your P&L statement, and it shares with you who do you owe for operating your business. And so under expenses, you have a vendor, and a vendor provides that product or service for you to have your operations. And so, we talked about net 30, net 60. So for instance, one of your vendors, I think Catherine said Alabama Electric. I live in Tennessee, born and raised, tried and true. So I'm not sure what's available in Alabama. But for instance, if you definitely have a brick and mortar location, you have a building, you'll have utilities, you'll have electric. And so because your electric bill comes in the mail today, doesn't mean you're going to necessarily pay it today. And so for good accounting, you want to record that vendor in the accounts payable or the amount you owe. So for instance, the first step, and it's very similar to the sales process of uploading that customer, you're going to do the same thing for that vendor. Just write out maybe the contact person name, the company's name, the address, the phone number, any of that contact information, any additional notes that you would like to keep, that's available there. With accounting, record keeping, or note taking is so important because the overall purpose of accounting is if it's very uniform. So for instance, if you have to leave the business for a while, an accountant or another individual can step into your place and understand what's happening. And so keeping notes along the way, especially if it's a unique situation, is extremely helpful just to give people insight into what's happening with your business. So once you create that vendor, this is pretty much the standard information. It looks like you have the street, the city, the zip code, just that contact information. And then you have these opening balances. So for instance, if you owe anyone anything, it'll show, well, for Accounting Lane, they must have provided you $200,000 worth of services, and that's what's due.
Another nice, I'm sorry. I was going to say another nice aspect of having all that vendor information centralized is if you're thinking, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So if you're trying to see what bills you need to pay now, what can you push off, you've got their contact information all in one place and you know how much you owe them. And so you can say, okay, I've got a good relationship with the folks over at Alabama Power. I've got a good relationship with Spire Energy. I've got a good relationship with the city of Birmingham, so maybe like, I don't know if you can push out your trash. I don't think you can do that. But I know both Alabama Power and Spire Energy were allowing folks to pause their payments without accruing any major, without getting your power turned off. And so, having that information there, you can kind of go down the list and just touch base with them saying like, okay, landlord, okay, energy, okay, utilities, how flexible is everyone? How do I prioritize paying these bills so that you can survive?
Thank you, Catherine. That's a great point. And next is paying your bills or having your bills easily accessible. And so just good accounting 101, as you receive your bills, as they come through the mail, just taking them. Where I'm sitting is great because everything I need is right here. Opening your bills, making sure you analyze what's due, making sure that the amounts look appropriate because we're humans, we all make mistakes, and making sure that that is up to date. And so in the bill section, what you'll do is you'll create a bill. And so here's your template. And especially if you've hired someone to do this, I would definitely encourage them to do so, for you to give them your bills on a weekly or monthly basis so they can upload this information, just have really good record keeping. And so really just choosing, this says bill I'm looking at is Navy Federal. It has that contact information. The account it's associated with is utilities. The amount is $56. So pause. Let me tell you what QuickBooks is doing here as you enter this bill. What QuickBooks is doing is saying, Jarlecia has a bill has an expense of $56 that is due on January 4th of 2017. So as you enter this bill into QuickBooks, it's building your financial statements. And so on your financial statements for January 1st, January of 2017, it's going to show under that expense section $56.50 that you paid, or that you plan on paying. So let me tell you a little bit more, and maybe this is too much detail, but this is the journal entry that QuickBooks is doing in the background. It has debit your expense of $56.50, saying that that's an expense that you incurred January 2017, and it's crediting your accounts payable of $56.50 because it's saying, okay, this expense she incurred, but she hasn't paid it yet. It's a payable that's due. And at the moment that I make that payment, what it's going to do is it's going to reverse that payable and reduce my cash. So it's going to say, oh, she no longer owes that $56 because she paid cash of $56.50. So let me reduce the cash she has in her account. So as you're doing everything throughout QuickBooks, QuickBooks is doing the math in the background for you. It's setting up those financial statements for you. But it's really imperative that your chart of accounts is set up appropriately. And if I'm going to stress this because trash in, trash out. If you set your chart of accounts on your own and you do not feel confident about it, I would definitely reach out to someone on this call to help you set up your chart of accounts, or just to review it to make sure the information is up to par. So we set up our...
I'm sorry, we have a question from Tanisha. Should the bills be entered manually?
You can upload the bills as well, similar to uploading those customers or uploading that inventory. There's a template out there and available for you that you can upload it. Depending on the size of your company, when I was doing record keeping in QuickBooks, I would just do it manually, but it's really up to you and what your availability is. Good question. So we created this bill. We have net 20 days. We look at our dashboard and it shows us, oh, this invoice is due coming up. So we want to make the payment. And so there are multiple ways you can make your payment. You can send the payment, directly auto draft if you like. You can, send a check, or you could print a check out of QuickBooks. So there's multiple ways you can make payments, and QuickBooks takes all of those into account. So one of the ways, if you go to your Quick Create menu, select Vendor, and then select Pay Bills, it'll show you a snapshot of all your invoices that are outstanding and what's due. And so from there, it'll show you what's current, like what's coming up as far as payments, and then what's further down. And then you can select Make a Payment. And so from there, you can select, okay, I want to pay, and it'll show you a long log of all of your vendors that are outstanding and who you need to pay. And then from there, you can select, okay, with this sample, it's PG&E, it's Nor Lumber, and you can choose exactly who you want to pay. And out of QuickBooks, you can order checks through the system. I've used a third-party vendor to order checks. You just have to make sure you have the right type of checks to print out of QuickBooks. But QuickBooks will print the checks for you if you have the proper stock and setup. Uh-oh, something must have moved around here. So do we have any questions here before we transition into connecting your bank into QuickBooks? All right, let's keep. Catherine, do you have anything?
Just said there's nothing in the chat. We're good.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to transition into, which is my favorite part, reconciling your bank to QuickBooks, or linking your bank account to QuickBooks. So you'll see that there is a banking option, and we must have lost something here on this page, but you'll see that there's a banking option in QuickBooks in the, let's see, maybe in the Quick Create tab, but you'll see if you go in there and play around, and you'll see a picture that looks similar to here. Oh, Okay. And it'll ask you to enter your bank name. And so your bank name, your credit card name, and you'll type that name in there. And if QuickBooks have the capabilities of linking to that account, it'll show up. And you'll select your bank name. And from there, you'll type in your username and your password. And then QuickBooks will do all the work as far as linking that bank account and pulling over those transactions. It may ask if you would like to pull over your transactions by a certain date or time, especially if you've been in business for a while, if uploading, prior transactions if you like, but QuickBooks have all of those capabilities of linking to your various bank accounts. And you're not just limited to one bank account. I know a lot of people have several bank accounts. You may have checking accounts, savings accounts, various credit cards. I would encourage you to just go ahead and log anything that's related to your business. To just go ahead and log all of that information in so you can get a clear, accurate picture of your financial statements, and it's not missing anything. And that just makes life easier for you, for your accountant, when it's time to file your tax returns, when it's time to review your financial statements. It's not a piece like, oh, I don't have this bank included, if you can just easily access it to QuickBooks online. So these are just good tips with linking your bank account. So once the bank is linked up, you can download the transactions once a day, once a week, however often you wish. So you'll see on that banking tab, it'll allow you to refresh. And so it's really however often you refresh your account, it'll bring over those transactions from your bank account to your QuickBooks. Once those transactions have been appropriately downloaded, that's when your work really comes into play, and that's when you would classify those transactions in the proper account, and that's really using that chart of accounts. If you have matched transactions in the past, QuickBooks is very intuitive, and it'll remember, for instance, every month if you have in Nashville, it's Nashville Electric Service, and for a couple of months, if you do that to utilities every month, you'll see going forward that QuickBooks will automatically show it as utilities, and it'll ask you to confirm. Or you can set up rules to say anytime you see any yes that goes to utilities, and QuickBooks will categorize that to utilities. And then I mentioned this earlier, you should work with your accountant to ensure your transactions are set up correctly. Especially if you have a smaller business, I would say reach out to an accountant or someone to make sure your chart of accounts is set up appropriately. And then if you have reoccurring transactions, you can probably do your QuickBooks on your own. Just link up with an accountant and make sure that you're coding those transactions properly, and you can go forward from there. Okay. This is what the screen looks like. If you are on that banking tab, you'll see this add account, and that'll allow you to add various bank accounts. You'll see update. Update is allowing you to refresh each, that MasterCard, that checking account, and that savings account. And the transactions every month or however often you update will come down in this menu below. Can you see this here? So for instance, on July 2017, this person had an Amazon order. And this is where it becomes very important, because you as the business owner know how you're operating your business. And you can pay accountant $1 million, but Amazon, it could be multiple things, right? So really you as a business owner to tell your accountant how this should be categorized, or for you to categorize it. So looking here, it has your date, it has your description, it says payee, that's if you're paying someone, your category, that's your chart of accounts, the spent column means that you spent money out of your bank account, and then receive is what you received into the business. And so, for instance, for this one, they have Amazon, it's supplies, and they received $89. And so to me, that's saying that this is weird, that they received, so this is what this is saying to me. Sorry, it took me a minute. That maybe they purchased an item from Amazon, and then they returned the item, and this is the money that they're receiving, and they purchased it for supplies. Does that make sense to everyone? I'm gonna say it one more time. And this is basically like reading your financial statements and understanding. So for instance, with this one, this is Amazon. They received $89. So this, as an accountant, this lets me know that they purchased something from Amazon at a certain point in time that they returned, and it happened to be supplies. So what they're doing is they said, you know, back in December, I purchased supplies, but I really didn't need them. So let me return that back to the supply bucket, and it nets to zero. I hope you guys understand that. If not, I'm sorry if I made it confusing. So at the end of the month, once you have recorded all of your transactions that have come into your account, we strongly encourage you to reconcile your bank statement to your QuickBooks, because this is a software, and there are glitches in the software. So for instance, there could be an occurrence where one day, you know, QuickBooks doesn't download all the transactions out of your bank, and there could be just a mishap there. And so what you're doing is you're looking at your bank statement. I would encourage you to print your actual bank statement off, and then go into your QuickBooks under this reconcile function and make sure that everything that's on your bank statement has been recorded into your QuickBooks. And if there's a difference, that means that something has been missed either on your bank statement or something has been missed on your QuickBooks, and you need to reconcile to ensure that your bank statement match your QuickBooks. So it's just really an extra measure to make sure your information is correct and up to date. Okay, so if you select the Reconcile tab, we encourage that you reconcile all of your bank accounts, so that's your savings accounts, your checking accounts, and your credit cards on a monthly basis. And so what you'll see is it'll ask you, which account do you want to reconcile? And that could be, you know, I mentioned earlier, your checkings, your savings, or any of your credit cards. And so if you have reconciled accounts in the past, or if you have a beginning balance, it'll show your beginning balance. So what I would encourage you to do is, you know, on a monthly basis, you'll receive your bank account, your bank statement in the mail, or you can go online and download it, and it'll show you, you know, what your beginning balance is. And I would look at my beginning balance and say, it shows $5,000. Does that agree with my actual paper bank statement? And you'll agree there. But then you'll have to type in that ending balance. And so you'll look at that bank statement, and it'll show ending balance, and you'll type it there. And then you're letting the system know what is the ending date. So the ending date will always be the last date of the month that you're reconciling your account. So you'll do in chronological order. You'll start with January, then February, then March, then April, May, December. I would encourage you not to jump around, because it makes the reconciling process a little bit more difficult. And if you do this on a monthly basis, it'll ensure our bank agree to your QuickBooks account. And so highly encourage you to do this, like make it a habit. We call it in accounting your month-end close process, making sure that that month has been recorded in your QuickBooks. And so you'll do it on a monthly basis, and then you'll do it on a year-end basis to make sure that your entire year looks good as well. So this is what the reconciling roster looks like. 1 second, guys. Hold on one moment, please. Okay, so this is what the reconciliation looks like. It'll show that ending balance that you typed in here. It'll show your beginning balance. And then at the bottom, it'll show all of your transactions for that month. And what makes QuickBooks really awesome is it'll show all the payments that you received, and it'll show all of your deposits. So payments are what you've spent out, all of those expenses, and deposits are what you're coming in. And deposits could be various things. So that's, you know, receiving revenue from selling your product. That could be from a loan that you received. That could be from, in our example earlier, a return from a product, but that's any funds that you're getting into your business. And so the overall goal when you're reconciling your account is to ensure that you have a zero balance difference at the end. QuickBooks will not allow you to reconcile unless there's a zero there. So for instance, with this account, we started off with $5,000, but at the end of the month, we had a total of $4,875. So the transactions they had, accounts payable, they received $300 in a payment. They accounts receivable, no, they paid out $300. Accounts receivable, they received $175, and then from legal and professional fees, they paid $250. So in that month, they paid out or had more expenses than what they received. So they still have cash in the bank, but they just didn't generate more profit, or they didn't generate more revenue than what they actually spent. And it gives you a snapshot on a monthly basis here. Okay? And this is just a really good measure to make sure that your QuickBooks account is up to date with all of your bank accounts and all of your credit card accounts, because you're using this software as a centralized location to generate your financial statements, and you do not want to miss any information. You know, referring back to the pandemic, earlier this year, a lot of people applied for the EIDL and the PPP, and they didn't receive nearly as much funding as they needed, or any funding at all, because their financial statements were not accurate. It didn't reflect the total amount of operating expenses they had, or the total amount of revenue. So it is really imperative that you have this information up to date, ready, and available to go. And QuickBooks makes this process extremely streamlined for you. I won't say easy, but it does make it streamlined, and there is a lot of support and help available out there for you all.
We've got a question in the chat. It's from Tina. She asks, is it okay for your accountant to reconcile every 3 months instead of every month?
They can do it on a quarterly basis. And especially if you're paying an accountant, I would just ensure that on a monthly basis you check in and that you ask if they are. Like, you ask for the receipt and they show you that they reconciled. And, you know, as a business owner, it's your business, and so not really relying on the accountant. I would say for you to ask for the reconciliations on a monthly basis. So they can do it quarterly, but ask them not to lump it in. Don't do it at a quarter at a time. You'll ask them, I want to see January, February, March. Okay? And then you won't have the next quarter for me until July, and then you want to see April, May, and June. And so just really make sure you follow up and ask them to be able to show you the reconciliations. You know, you as a business owner, get your own bank statements and look. And you can just look at, you know, the difference and make sure it's zero. You can look at the beginning balance and the ending balance, and if it agrees to your bank statement, you should be pretty good. But that's okay if they do it on a quarterly basis, just to follow up and make sure that they're actually doing it on a quarterly basis.
If you're applying for financing of just about any type, it would be really beneficial for you to do this regularly, like to learn how to do this and do this on your own. Definitely having an accountant check your work is something that you can do on a quarterly basis, but having the ability to run and make sure that the reconciliation happens on a monthly basis is really important. You don't want to, you know, it takes time, and you don't want to do it more frequently than that. But having it done on a monthly basis ensures that, say for example, there's something on your credit card that got returned, but for some reason the data didn't get pulled in onto the into your QuickBooks, or when you made the return, instead of it returning to your business account, it got returned to your personal account. Making sure those types of transactions show up appropriately is a really important part. And when you are applying for financing, financial statements are only good for about 90 days, which means if you're waiting on an accountant to run your quarterlies, then you're going to be asking the lender to wait, and by then you'll have a whole nother set of documents that you'll have to recreate. And so doing it on a monthly basis really it keeps things in line and in order, and it saves you a bunch of work both at the end of the year and at the end of the quarter.
Good question. Good question. Especially if you have QuickBooks, you should be able to go in to your account and reconcile as needed and not have to wait on the accountant. So thank you for that, Catherine. All right, now we're heading over to the Report Center. The Report Center allows you to generate standard and customized reports that you can review at any point in time. What's great about QuickBooks is you can put in various dates to see information to determine how the business is operating. They have customized reports that you can generate, but they also have general business reports that are common for owners, being a balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. So the profit and loss statement, as we mentioned earlier, will display income and expenses of the company over a specific period of time. And the balance sheet displays a snapshot of everything that the company owes. So what you own and what and who you owe. So this is just a standard template of how you can generate one of those reports out of QuickBooks. You can choose various ways you want to receive that information. This one is very easy. It's year to date, or you can do current year, prior year. You can customize the date to put in a specific time frame. For instance, if you want a January 1st of 2020 through what's today, August 27th of 2020, you can customize it. And then you can do based on if you want to see it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, if you want to do it by year, if you want to specifically look at it by vendor or customer. QuickBooks has the ability to really customize the report and allow you to look at the information that you deem is necessary. I would encourage everyone here to look at your financial statements at least on a monthly basis to determine how your company is operating. I would not say to wait on a quarterly basis, but really monthly to see how you're operating, what you need to do going forward. For more of strategic planning, you can look at your business on a quarterly basis to see, okay, on a quarterly term, how am I performing and why does one quarter vary from another quarter? As a business owner, I would encourage you to ask yourself a lot of why questions and refer back to your financial statements to see if you can gather that information, because if you're keeping up to date financials and they're accurate, your financial statements give you a lot of insight into your business. I would imagine everyone here, if you looked at your financials from January 1 of 2020 till today, you would see that March 10th through the end of May, that you will probably notice a decline of sales. And, immediately we all know why. It's due from the pandemic and from COVID. But on a more positive term, just referring to 2019, I use this example a lot as an ice cream shop. Well, May through August, well, in Tennessee, it's hot. It's hot here in October. So from May through October, you might see that there is a substantial increase in sales. And you can ask yourself why. Was there a large event that happened in May that brought people to your ice cream shop? Was it just extremely hot during that time frame and your ice cream sales increased? And just really asking yourself those questions, and can you duplicate any of those processes that makes your company successful? Catherine mentioned this earlier, that if you look at your financial statements on a monthly basis, you have to remember we are all humans, and you take your business very prideful, as you should. But for instance, one of your vendors could potentially, make a mistake and overcharge you for a month. Well, if you're looking at that on a monthly basis, it's great to those immediately than to wait 3 or 4 months later and try to figure out, why was I charged 50% more opposed to, my normal $500 or things of that sort. It gives you a clear snapshot of how your company is operating. Also, with the balance sheet, it tells you, I was on the balance sheet side. Sorry, guys, I was on the balance sheet for a long time. But with your balance sheet, it shows you, okay, immediately, if I look at my payables, my account payables, who do I owe? Or if your account receivables, who owe me money, especially if you are operating in your low in cash and you have outstanding accounts receivables. That is a huge red flag that you are not collecting your receivables on a daily or on a timely manner. And it also gives a red flag that maybe you need additional assistance, someone who can collect those receivables for you. There may be an area of opportunity in your operations because you're leaving money on the table by doing so. So this is how you can run a balance sheet. The P&L is quite the same as far as running the parameters there, choosing the date. You can do total only. You can do it on a monthly basis. You can do it on a weekly basis. I've worked with clients who created a budget on a weekly time frame. They were generating great money, but at the end of the month, they were always in a loss. And we were trying to figure out what was happening. And what happened is they left money on the table. They had outstanding receivables. When I say like huge amounts of receivables, it was unreal. And so really just looking on a weekly basis, identifying, okay, when do your bills come in and how do we align with when do your receivables come in? And at what point do you need to adjust your due dates for your bills to contact your vendors and say, I don't have the cash for these on the 15th. Can we change it to the 20th so that I don't incur late charges or penalties or fees? Or is it contacting your customers and saying, okay, these accounts are outstanding, pay me my money? Well, which one is low-hanging fruit? Going out and retrieving that accounts receivable. If the funds were due on, let's see, August 1st, not waiting until August 15th to contact your clients and ask them to make that payment. So it really provides very helpful and insightful information about operating your business. And so we mentioned earlier how it's so important to, if you have customers and they're reoccurring, or if you're doing, let's see, jobs, and you want to track the project profitability, you can run reports just based off a customer. And so, for instance, with this customer, let's see, Amy's Bird Sanctuary, well, we provide her, let's see, landscaping services, it's the labor, pest control services. So you can see based off the customer, each customer, what type of services you provide to them. And that could be useful for other information as well. So for instance, if you know that, let's see, with Amy's Bird Sanctuary, she always purchased, let's see, pest control, and you have a new additional pest control service that you know she'll be interested in, you can market that directly to her. So when we talked about CRM, maybe it'll provide information of that sort if you know the type of spending or the type of services your customer provide. You can get a snapshot of that information there, but not so much as directly contacting your customers or sending out those emails and things of that sort. But if you want to track, okay, on a regular recurring basis, what does Amy buy? That is great information there.
So for the person who does the asphalt and the equipment requires a lot of fuel, you can look at the, for example, distance that you have to go before you actually get to that job to reduce the mileage before you even get to that job, or time in the car. Travel time is a big, that's a big sucker of revenue as well. So if you have the option of, say, two equal spenders, one is within 5 miles and one is 25 miles away, and they're spending the exact same amount of money, well, do the 5 mile one first so you can get that cash in the bank, and then invest that into the mileage that it costs you to get out to that farther job.
Great tip. And just additional information about saving, printing, exporting. You can save it if you work with an accountant or any type of advisor. You can print it to Excel or a PDF, or just have it on record for yourself. And just really, it's easy and accessible, providing it to a lender or any other type of investor to have that information readily and available to you as a business owner. so it doesn't just remain in QuickBooks. You can share this information with other third parties as well. So there's also options for you to create custom reports, and I've done this where I've scheduled emails to myself. So for instance, on a monthly basis, if you want to do a balance sheet by month, so it'll show your balance sheet, by month. So January 31st or February 28th or things of that sort. And so you can customize those reports, have as much or as little detail as you like. It can be scheduled or it can be unscheduled. For instance, at Pathway WBC or Pathway Lending, we have some clients that we provide technical assistance to, and we ask that they provide their financial statements to us on a monthly or quarterly basis. And so you can input that there and it'll automatically do it for you. So that's, as a business owner, you guys are extremely busy. It takes additional item off your plate. And so just having that capability is great as well. And so this is just showing you detail, and everyone, you guys can receive this email afterwards as you're going through your QuickBooks. If you want to reference anything, this slide deck is really great. It might be slightly updated, but in the same breath, you should still be able to navigate using the slide deck in your QuickBooks. And so you'll see that QuickBooks have options here. The first one is email, so you can email it directly to whomever. You can print it, or you can export it as a PDF or an Excel. For me, I like to have my reports in Excel. It makes it easier for me to check the math, to add additional information. If you're doing cash flow projections, this is great to export prior year information because you can see how you operated from prior year, and it's easy just to pull that information going forward, adding additional assumptions, and just really tracking your projections to your actuals to see if you're operating how you thought you would or how you expected to. And so just a tip from me, I like to save it as in Excel. And so this is showing you, if you select that drop-down option, you have the option to export it to Excel or PDF. You'll see it normally at the bottom screen as a download. And if you open it, you should be able to edit and just add any additional information as needed. And there's also management reports. So if you want to see specific sales performance, expense performance, or just an overall company overview, you also have those capabilities as well. So QuickBooks really has the information regardless of what level or how familiar you are with accounting software or accounting in general. If you're not really that familiar, you can just look at your balance sheet and P&L, and as you learn and gain more, you can look at that sales performance, or you can look at your expense performance. Catherine mentioned earlier, a lot of companies were very flexible, provide deferments during the time of the PPP and the idle, and you can see, exactly which expense are you incurring the most throughout the year, and if you're having a hard time financially, it's easily able to identify who you should contact for further assistance. So that was the last slide. We have gone all the way to noon, but all the questions have been really great. Like I mentioned before, the slide deck will be available to everyone that's on the call, and if there's really specific information, please feel free to reach out to Catherine, myself, Taylor's on the call. We have Robert, various resource partners. You are definitely not here alone. And please feel free to share with us any of your questions. So I will give it back over to Catherine. And Catherine, thank you so much for being an amazing moderator and host, and truly appreciate working with you and the entire team.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the wonderful information. So if you missed the record keeping like a rock star or financial lingo 101, if all of this was a little because it's accounting. We have on the YouTube channel posted those videos. I'll drop the link to that in the chat. I believe all the contact information will be in the email. Taylor, do you want to tell us about what's coming up?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, Catherine, thank you so much for moderating such a rich discussion. You always do such a fantastic job. And Jarlecia, I mean, I'm always amazed at how you can take this super complex, overwhelming information, spend 2 hours, and make you not feel like you're exhausted and then beating your head against a wall. So thank you for continuing to bring really accessible content to the ecosystem. So yeah, as Catherine mentioned, please check out the YouTube channel. It's YouTube. You just search Rebound BHAM, you'll find it there. She's also going to drop a link in there, and it will be in the email as well. There are several sessions around this content that I encourage you to take a look at, as well as some other good things there. Looking forward to next week, we have next Tuesday afternoon, Pitching Like a Pro. And that's going to be with Victor Brown. Some of you know Victor, and Alicia Levels Moore. And really, y'all, pitching it doesn't have to be daunting, whether you have 10 minutes in an elevator with someone, or it's over a dinner time conversation. You have to be able to scale your conversation about your business and the value you bring and your model really quickly, and be able to read a room. And that's what this is about, is learning how to pitch your business to your audience. So I encourage you to join us there. And then if you'll just take a skip back. Thank you so much, Catherine. We'll take a look and see what else we've got. I believe you're teaching this one, right, Catherine? Staffing and Your Competitive Advantage, right? This one's yours. And if you guys have not heard Catherine, in case you couldn't tell for today, she is a wealth of knowledge. I'm amazed at just the gamut of small business content that this woman has in her brain. So I encourage you to join Catherine for that session as well. If PPP taught us anything and COVID has taught us anything, really understanding your labor force and how that plays into the overall health of your business is really important. So Catherine's going to take a dive there. And keep your eye on this calendar. We're continuing to add content here. We've heard from lots of entrepreneurs that inventory management and fulfillment has been a real issue, particularly as those of you have tried to go from your brick and mortar location and really expand your reach with e-commerce. And how do I ship my product, particularly food products, across the country? That's what this is about, is figuring out how to do that in a manner that does, is efficient, effective, doesn't run you ragged, and you don't lose money through that process. So I encourage you to join us for this as well. And then we're working on a session that's going to take a deep dive in Instagram at the end of September with Mindy Rohr from Bear Properties. For those of you who know Mindy, you may know that she's a social media influencer with about 20,000 followers herself. And so she's going to be talking about Instagram. So more to come. All of this content is for you. So if you have thoughts, ideas about what you need at this time, you know us, we're flexible. Shoot us an email, shoot us a note. Let us know what you need right now. We have been responding based on what we know to be the need, but we're open. Tell us what you need, and we will try our very best to get you some content to try and fill the gap. So as you can see on the YouTube channel, there's a ton of stuff, but we're here to serve, and grateful for you and the role that you're playing as an entrepreneur, particularly during COVID-19. So I hope you feel like we truly have your back, and we look forward to meeting each of you if we haven't met you already. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
All right, take care.